you've made a couple of references to the NIL, that Tennessee might not have as money as we first believed. They were the pioneers of NFL. They were Lewis and Clark. They went across the great United States of NIL and they changed things. But now they have Ricky Gibson III jumping in. I think Boo Carter asked for more money, Mike Matthews, Nico as well. And now you have Christian Charles entering the transfer portal. But I'm not saying that it cost them Nico, the fact that they might be short on cash, but let me just ask the question. Could they be short on cash?
Shortish, right? I don't think Tennessee's like, but look, everyone in the SEC is behind except Texas, right? Everyone in the SEC is behind the Big Ten. The problem is this. There were dudes who back in the day would not give money to bagmen to go get players. But when it's on the up and up, and I'm donating to a nonprofit foundation, all of a sudden Michigan having the fourth wealthiest man in America that is, his wife's an alum, and that matters. Not in America, the world. Literally the founder of Oracle is dumping money into Michigan like crazy. The SEC schools have had smaller enrollment numbers over the last 30 years. So when it comes to Ohio State, who's had 50 to 70,000 students for as long as I've been alive, they can get $10, ahead from a bunch of students and make money off of that. The Big Ten schools have a different level of money than the other schools have. I don't think Tennessee's not remotely in the elite category when it comes to money, but Tennessee's not abjectly far behind. They overpaid for a few dudes. I think they overpaid for Matthews. I think they overpaid for Sanders and things like that. They overpaid for Lance Hurd. But I think that they're okay with money, but right now, short term, they're in trouble. Another problem is Tennessee's boosters are all old, and they don't understand. They don't understand that, hey, this is the way of doing business, and they don't like it. It's one of the reasons the Lady Vols fell off is they didn't want – there were a lot of boosters for the Lady Vol program that thought, it's Pat Summitt's program. You should be proud to wear the orange, and we're not going to pay players to come here. Next thing you know, you got to pay Rakia Jackson $750,000 if you want to keep her. So, and now all of a sudden they have and for all the criticisms everyone has for Spire, when Spire got involved with the Lady Vol Booster Club, Tennessee has 6 of the top 50 players now, right? So, right after that happened, so it's pay for play. It's pro sports. It is what it is. And it doesn't mean you can't still develop a relationship where that guy is loyal to the program, but you're also going to have to pay him. I'm loyal to my company. They're also going to have to pay me. Point blank. That's what it's going to be at the end of the day because it's my job. But I don't think Tennessee's in a bad position, but they're definitely not in a great position. Look, Texas has a different level of money. Ohio State has a different level of money. Michigan, Penn State, they have a different level of money. And so while Tennessee's okay, Tennessee's not in the elite category when it comes to how much money they have to throw around there.
Yeah, well, Caleb, I want you to jump in here, but I want to make a quick. I don't know where the delineation is. If it's 65 years old or if it's you make over $1 million, but there are a group of fans that hated the talent fee thing that went with season tickets, and then there's another group that said, "Yay, more NIL money, doing the right thing." And Caleb, those are two very different groups.
They are very different groups, but it's not just an age thing. And first of all, because you mentioned, yes, Christian Charles is in the transfer portal. I'll just say up front, I don't think that has anything to do with NIL money. That's playing time. Christian Charles has been at Tennessee for 4 years. You're going to have players into the spring portal. Yeah. He hasn't started. However,
he's a smart kid who wants to go get as much education he can on somebody else's dime and play football while he does it. So that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. However, I have to bring this up. And Dave and I had debated this for a while. And Dave, I have to say, I think I'm kind of being proven right on you for this, which is that I've maintained for a long time that the gap in the contracts the SEC and the Big Ten signed in TV deals was going to have a huge impact on the NIL market when they went into play. We're entering the second year of those two contracts this year. I mean, what you just talked about with the Big Ten money, that gap's only going to grow, right? Because the Big Ten is raking in $1 billion a year.
Yep. And look, and it's part of that. The other part of it is a lot of the boosters are aged out. There was the banker who was the big Auburn booster forever that got sold to a publicly traded company. And so all of a sudden the family doesn't have that kind of money. There's also a difference in, like, Dave and I are about the same age. My dad would have absolutely, if he was a billionaire, put money into the program and been important and paid to run through the T and all that stuff. I'm not doing any of that, man. Like, I'm not. I just don't get, like, I don't care enough about that. I don't need to walk around a locker room handshaking people with $100 bills to feel important, right? That's just not something our generation values. So, and then you get to, Caleb, I'm assuming you're a millennial, right?
Yes.
Yeah, millennial generation, even less. Gen Z, even less. I've said this for a while that college football needed to change the revenue stream quickly because I know I have a few friends. You do this a long time, and we do a lot of stuff on nonprofits. You meet people who are very, very wealthy people. What they're going to do is buy a box, and that's it. And I bought my box, and if I'm not using my plane and you want to use my plane, cool. Other than that, I'm not giving you a bunch of money to pay some kid, especially really smart business people understand that the business model of NIL and collectives and all that is abjectly broken. No one except those big schools are actually making their payments on time. Olivia Dunn said she didn't get paid on time by LSU. Caleb Williams didn't get paid on time by USC. They were behind all the time with them and never really caught back up. It's like you're signing these kids NIL deals. You're doing nothing to recoup your investment because the collectives involved have no idea how to price marketing, or they know about as much about marketing as I do about hanging drywall. So it's a broken system. And if you're a good business person, you're going to look at this and say, you want me to throw money in the street so we can win football games. That's what you want me to do. You have a business in place that doesn't do business, and you just want me to hand millions upon millions of dollars over for kids to play football. Look at college basketball right now. And this is all buried because of the Nico thing. Last year, the top schools were paying $5 million for a roster for college basketball. This year, there are at least a dozen schools that are paying more than $10 million. That's how fast this is moving it out quickly. And who's recouping investment? Like, how many commercials have you watched with Tennessee football players or basketball players in it? Zakai with the bed store, because Roger's good. Roger came up with that himself, and it's a good one. And then you saw Brew on a couple things, and then you did again. So there just aren't very many people don't recoup investment. And if you're a good business person, you're going to look at this and say, this is the stupidest way to run a business in the history of sports. Why are you doing this way? And the reason why is because that's the system now, and no one's going to buck it and change it.
Dalton was on Salsaritas, which made me think they gave out sedatives with their chips and salsa because he was just a little too laid back on that thing. But okay, well, let me ask you this then: big picture. Not about Nico, not about Christian Charles, not about any of these. Can Tennessee win long-term, win championships? Because we've already seen the Big Ten take over to some extent. If there's not some sort of salary cap that prevents schools like Ohio State and Michigan that may have more of a donor base to spend as much as they want.
No, and look, they're going to put this like on the house settlement's going to start in July, and so what's going to happen is it's $20.5 million, and they said it was 22. Now they're saying it's 20.5, and 15.4 million is going to most football programs, and so everyone in America has been negotiating over the last few weeks of players want 26% of the 15.4 million, and because that's what Dak Prescott makes against the salary cap of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what quarterbacks are looking to get right now, and so that would put them at what? Little under $4 million, right? So that's where it would land them. That's the number everybody's looking for right now. So it's going to get sued into oblivion. It's not actually going to happen. They're trying to put an illegal salary cap in. They're praying to God that Congress comes and bails them out and saves them. Tuberville and people like that are trying to. There was a legitimate bill that would have saved this, and honestly, it was Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin. So both sides of the aisle destroyed it by putting stupid things in it no one's ever going to vote for. And they're looking for Congress to come bail them out and let them run what is right now an illegal cartel. It is the literal definition of a cartel, and no one's coming to help you. No one's coming to save you. So I don't know what, like, it was Brett Kavanaugh that is the one that said, nope, you got to pay, players can get money and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have a MAGA judge and Democrats on the other side. You really think they're going to say, hey, multimillionaires, you get to keep making your money and you don't have to pay the kids? They're not doing that. So you have neither side's coming to save you, and that's what they're holding out for. The only solution's the thing Nick Saban said 2 summers ago. And when Nick said it, I thought, man, that's a little premature, isn't it? I didn't know all this was coming, and clearly Nick Saban did. The only way to do it is to go the NFL model. You make them employees. You collectively bargain. What that means is 45% or more of the revenue base is going to the players. And it means you're shuttering a lot of sports and they become intramural. And That's how you do this, and you have real enforceable contracts that are out there. There's no other solution to this, but they don't want to do it. And this is what Danny White last year at the SEC meetings. Whatever we're going to, let's just go to it fast. They're doing the opposite of that, and it's a really, 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 it's a really bad system that they have set up, and they clearly don't care to fix it with something that is actually going to stick.
Well, there's another layer to this, though, because even if you do the salary cap and you have the schools directly playing players, and even if they were to solve this, there is no way you could ever regulate quote-unquote endorsements players could get from businesses because, I mean, you can't regulate that in the NFL. You certainly can't regulate that in college, and that money kind of all is going into a pot. So with that in mind, and with the Big Ten contract in mind, given the fact that I don't see any possible way for the SEC to catch up to the Big Ten, could this end up destroying Greg Sankey's legacy, signing that contract with ESPN and then getting fleeced by the Big Ten 3 years later?
I don't know about destroy because it seems like everything in college happens super slow, right? So I don't think it's going to destroy the legacy. I do think he's slow right now. I do think it chips away at his legacy a little bit because think about what we all done to Greg Sankey coming out of COVID. Man, like that guy, leader of college football. Look at this guy. Now you look at it, he's made some dumb decisions. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to make a dumb decision today. So I'm not saying he should be fired or anything, but that ESPN contract was a bad decision. Trying to go to 9 games without having the backing, thinking you could force that through by pressuring your presidents and what they're going to eat $4 million a year in revenue. No, they're not. You know what I mean? Why would you think that's going to happen? Just because you want this? They're not doing that. So he's made some bad decisions. It will chip away at it. And one thing that we have to all remember when we talk about this, because the SEC is still making a lot of money, they're closer to what the Big 12 is making than what they are what the Big 10's making. Exactly. So it's that's the neighborhood you're shopping in, and also they have the Big 10 schools have larger alumni bases, and also they have just exponentially more millionaires and billionaires that are alumnus of the Big 10 schools and the SEC schools. They've
got the last 2 national champions for a reason.
Yeah. And here's the other thing to remember too. Now, this isn't specifically with the Big 10 or the SEC per se, but the other thing to remember, Will, I'm going to let you out of here with this, is that the football powers are still going to be the football powers because they're going to have businesses that do see value in being associated with athletes. So they're going to spend NIL money. Pay-per-play and NIL are going to be 2 different numbers. And I still think ultimately the football powers that are in place now will continue to be that, whether it's Big Ten or SEC.
I think there's some because part of that's the demand, right? Like Tennessee loses Bruce Pearl. The fan base held the administration accountable to make sure basketball didn't fall back to where it was under Doug Dickey. And so that's part of it, is that Tennessee's fans will always demand that Tennessee is going to be a big-time program. There are other places that, and the same way it worked with Nebraska, I think there are other schools that are big-time power programs that they will absolutely slip away because of the money situation, because they straight up don't have it. I think there are other schools that will step up. In the Bagman era, Louisville all of a sudden got really good. All of a sudden are pretty good all of a sudden when they've never been good about football, but it's because they had certain corporate partners that were super okay with working the Bagman game. And so they got better. And so I think you're going to see, for the most part, most of the powers will stay powers. Some will fall. Some others that are SMU. SMU could absolutely rise and become a power again because they have money, right? They have oil money. And so that could be a school that takes a step and takes a leap up. They're not complaining about what the ACC is making. Florida State and Clemson are, because they don't have any money. So but SMU's boosters are willing to make sure that they're good, and their fans are willing to make sure that they're good. That's what it will come down to at the end of the day is, do you have the cash? Because that's what it's going to be. And the NIL side's tough with this, because I mentioned this to you off the air, Dave, but I'm going to bring it on the air. And sorry if I'm not supposed to do that. I literally don't know a human being but you who's made money off of NIL. And I've had everybody else lost their backside.
I did pretty well.
That's real. Everyone else literally was a net negative. I don't know another human being. I know a couple that did female athletes, because female athletes show up to things, and that worked for them. But anybody else with a Moonshine Mountain cookie, like Mike, that worked for them, right? But they had a really good program that they put together. I don't think the Bed Store made any money, but I don't think they lost any money on the Zakai thing. Maybe they made a little bit. For the most part, you lose money on these NIL deals. And are you willing to? And the reason why is it's priced so stupid. We price what advertising and marketing costs are. It's so dumb. Like, you want Nico to come to your event, $65,000. Like, I know one guy that runs a business in town that is an alumnus and just wanted to help out. So he was willing to put 50 grand into Nico coming in and doing advertising for him.
Wow.
And got told, nope, 65 grand. And you get him for 4 hours and only 1 hour that's recording videos. And he said, and he came back to me and said, no one can make money off of that. And I'm like, no one can make money off of this. It's so stupid. All of it's so priced, so dumb that it's not based in reality. It's like science fiction. What everybody's pricing the NIL, what the players want, science fiction. What the schools and the NIL collectives want to charge people who want to try to help their school out by using somebody for advertising. Everyone loses their backside. And I know 2 businesses that have shut down because they put their marketing budget into NIL.
Well, I will tell you this. It was mostly dumb A luck because I got Jacob Warnock, Cooper Mays, a key player, and 2 great, well-spoken players. And I made one good decision because I called first about Nico, and they said, oh, that's probably going to be at least $2,000 per episode. And I was like, 20 minutes per week, $2,000? It's like hard pass.
Yeah.
So maybe one good decision by Dave, but for the most part, dumb luck.
But I will say, but what you did, you kept it small, right? You went and you did the thing that we've always done, and it has a proven track record in marketing, which is you went and got a couple of players that everybody knew, local. You got it underwritten by another company. You made a little money on it. Probably didn't make you're not buying a Bentley or anything with that money, but you made a little money on it, and it's part of your overall plan to monetize what you're doing. That's what it has to be. But when you ask somebody, I mean, there's no chance to recoup $2 million to Joe Milton. There's no scenario anyone can do that. Like, there's no company. And for all the criticisms that people have for Spire can't recoup that. That's not on them. You know what I mean? Like, the money's dumb. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. There is no scenario they can recoup $2 million on a wide receiver at Ohio State. So this is a lot of why I think Tennessee's biggest boosters aren't throwing money into NIL is because they realize it's a dumb business model and it's not going to work.
Interesting. Great stuff, Will. 3 to 7 on the Sports Animal with Tyler Ivins, and we greatly appreciate the time. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man.
Have a good one, Will.
Always nice to join us. We appreciate that, and I guess good for Tennessee that you didn't have any monstrous breaking news, because last week we went from Nico's going to have a big orange-white game to Nico wants more money to Nico wasn't at practice to Nico might not be a ball anymore. Probably the craziest show we've had, and maybe the craziest show we'll ever have. And it all happened live. What are you doing? Are you throwing change in a jar? Or
no, I was picking up a couple quarters and I dropped them multiple times. I didn't mean to do that.
It is Good Friday, so Caleb is taking collections. Let's get to the stat of the day. Does Tennessee suddenly have an NIL problem? Let's close with this real quick. And I'll give you credit. I think the television contract is a part of it, but I also think the donor bases are probably more affluent at a school like Michigan and Ohio State than perhaps Tennessee. I also think Tennessee and the other schools that in the SEC that are supported by boosters have older boosters. And I don't think Jim Haslam, who's 92 years old, I don't think he wants to spend a blame dollar on any player. I think he'll stroke a big check and it's Neyland Stadium fueled by Pilot, but I don't think he wants to spend money on an 18-year-old athlete when he went through hellacious training camps under General Neyland and got his education and was damn proud of it. Caleb, I have trouble thinking, and you mentioned the age thing. I kind of thought it was the opposite of the way that discussion went. I think the older you are, the less you want to spend money on some 18-year-old kid.
Well, I actually think there's a different layer of this, and something Will brought up because there was an Auburn business that went public. We know this. The Haslam family sold Pilot to Warren Buffett's company, and so Pilot, if Tennessee, we know Tennessee has a Pilot partnership, but Dave, you know this, back in the day when Jim Haslam ran Pilot, a Pilot partnership, that was a charity effort by Jim Haslam, right? Because he wanted to see Tennessee do well. Warren Buffett's company doesn't care if if Warren Buffett's company is doing a Pilot partnership with Tennessee, they expect to recoup an investment, right?
Yes. And Caleb's got a retro Coke machine in his office. I'll say this too. not to interrupt you, I think Jim Haslam sees the value in be associated with Tennessee football. I don't think he sees value. I'm just using him as an example. I don't think he sees value about being associated with Boo Carter or any individual player.
Well, yes, but also I guess where I'm getting is these older boosters that did love the university that might actually have seen the value, they're selling their companies now because they're old. And as we learned with the Haslam family, sometimes their kids ain't smart enough to run the company they built. So it's one of those situations where I think I think you're going to see a lot more businesses get sold that don't. I mean, you've talked about this with Nike, Dave, and I give you credit. You were ahead of the curve on this. Everybody has tried to sell for a long time. Oh, Nike's going to make Oregon go win a national title. Oregon still hasn't won a national title. You know why? And you always point this out. Nike is a business first. They are not going to prop up Oregon insofar as it hurts their bottom line.
Right.
So,
I mean, what if Duke comes to them and says, we're trying to build this football program and we've given you all this exposure and sure you paid for it, but Adidas is willing to pay the same money to be associated with our basketball program and you're funneling, making up a number, $100 million in NIL to Oregon or $100 million in facilities to Oregon. They can't. It's a conflict of interest. And Phil Knight may absolutely love the Ducks, but he loves money more.
Yes. And this is the same as, like, I know Rutgers has this delusion that Elon Musk is going to, because he does vanity projects, is going to throw a lot of money at Rutgers to try to make it big. I'm going to tell you guys this. Elon Musk will only throw so much money. He loves money more than anything else. He's not going to throw money at a college football program if it cost him his net worth. Okay. That's
like, why when he bought X, Twitter, that's why everybody said, man, he's lost his mind there. No, I mean, it's now profitable. And he's just a guy that sees numbers unlike you and me.
Well,
I mean,
okay,
on the spectrum or whether he's got now I think he's inflating some of those X numbers. But he's making money is the point.
Well, here's why he really
I don't want to get sidetracked.
Yeah, sorry. He's not making money off X, but the things that he has been allowed to do and the deals he struck with governments based on him buying X, that's what's making him money. But
agree. But let's give it for instance. If I write a takeout piece, which for those that don't know is like a longer piece on a player, which we plan to do this summer, it probably doesn't technically make me money. But if you read it and you're like, man, Dave really nailed that, or Caleb really nailed that, you're more likely, I think, to come back to offthehooksports.com. You're more likely to watch us when we're on our show. So if we spend 20 hours, and I've done this before, I've spent 40 hours on one story. And we probably don't have the flexibility to do that, nor do most people have the attention span anymore. But if we did, Caleb, and it helped our brand, it may not directly give us money in hand, but it helps the overall profitability of the company. So,
yes, that's why the quality of what we write is as important as what we churn out. I mean, this is what I'll just say from the other side. You talk about Nike. This is the mistake Under Armour made with Maryland and the uniforms 15 years ago. They're like, oh, we're just going to generate buzz. All we have to do is generate buzz. You know, Under Armour never actually spent money on a design team. And that's why they've tanked, because guess what? Their designs suck. And so, like, they've tanked in popularity because of that. And so, yeah, it's the whole, I mean, this is all a business. You're right. People aren't making their money on the back end, and Tennessee hasn't. Every SEC school to this point is going to have an NIL problem because of the TV contracts. That's a $700 million difference. You're talking an NIL budget difference for every single school at a minimum.
Guys that make billions of dollars don't really care if their favorite team wins on Saturday, Sunday. Maybe the one exception's Mark Cuban, because he got lucky and made his money. He got out and got lucky and didn't lose his money, and he bought the team.
How do you think they made their billions? These are people that put children in Africa in slave camps to get rich.
and probably ignore their own children as well.